A new attack ad against Zack Polanski has dropped from Emily Thornberry, the woman who defended Keir Starmer's defence of cutting off food, fuel, and water to starving Gazans in Israel's genocide. So, this is the type of people we are dealing with. And when she was confronted by Owen Jones at the Labour conference on this, she claimed it was misogyny to question her and, probe her on her ethical and moral positions on Israel's genocide. So, just a little bit of context there. Let's get straight into it because this is the most pathetic, misinformed, straw man attack I've ever seen. And it'd be sad if it wasn't so pathetic. Let's get straight into it.
Give me a rough figure on how much we're spending on debt.
Well, there's £70 billion that we owe to the Bank of England, but we don't actually owe.
This video.
Wow.
Sorry, the
This
deficit,
video
sorry.
really.
The problem for Zack Polanski and the Greens. Zack doesn't seem to have a basic grip on the facts. It's not good. It's really not good as a political leader not to know the difference between the debt and the deficit.
Okay, he slipped up on a word. That's literally all they have. He conflated debt and deficit and then corrected himself. Okay, let's see what else she has, because already pretty weak.
If he's missing the detail on this, then what else doesn't he have his head around? And Zack, because I know you're watching, the difference is...
That fucking tone. Zack. Like, is it any wonder people hate Labour? They're a dead party. As far as I'm concerned, they're deader than the Tories at this point, which is saying a lot because the Tories are literally 6 feet under.
that the deficit is the difference between the amount that you get in and the amount that you spend, and the debt is the total amount of money that you owe. The idea that Britain as a country doesn't have to service its debts to others is about as bonkers as you can get.
Okay, so that's not an argument. And also as well, debt is just part of the system. We rely on debt. Running deficits is politically easier than running a surplus. If we just paid all our debts off, we'd have higher taxes and our economy would be worse off. Inflation would go up. So debt, again, is a part of the system. We rely on it. It's a means of selling off bonds that are safe assets for people who want to invest. We rely on it. And as the GDP goes up, debt goes up. The idea that, and also, who says we have to pay debts? There's been, in history, plenty of amnesties, jubilees, and people have actually had debts forgiven, which is very unlikely. But we definitely rely on debt. And also, the false equivalence with household debt, because in a household, you have to pay your debt. When you die, ideally, you've paid your debts, and if you don't, it rolls over to your family. Countries don't die in the same way. Countries continue their debt. They rely on debt. And the idea that we pay our debt, no, we've tried it in the past. I think America tried it in the 1830s. They tried to pay that. It led to a recession. We tried to pay down the debt and deficit through austerity in the 2010s. It led to slowed growth and pretty much 300,000 deaths. And pretty much the decimation we've seen of the economy that we see today. So it increased the debt and the deficit, and we've got a crumbling infrastructure. Whereas where borrowing was really cheap 15 years ago, we should have been investing, because that's the only way we get out of this, is investment in the future. Because austerity has made us worse off, and Labour are continuing that.
Debt in the British economy is a complex issue, but in practical terms, it's straightforward. We're a country that pays our debts, all the debts that we owe, and we should.
No, if we did that, we'd be worse off. Debt is a part of the system. It's a necessary part of the system that we're not going to pay, even if we could, which we shouldn't. We couldn't anyway, because I think it's doubled in the last 15 years. And again, austerity, even Canada, when they had a surplus in the 90s, didn't lead to any growth. This false equivalence of household debt needs to be really getting rid of, because even Labour are like buying into this narrative.
To ignore them and pretend that they don't exist is nonsense.
He didn't do that, did he? He's saying that actually, historically, how we got out of financial crisis was not just trying to pay down the debt, like we've seen in America, like we've seen across the world, in the UK more recently. We need to stimulate the economy. That's the only growth we're going to have. How do you grow yourself out of debt? There's one answer. That's investment. Yes, it's not politically popular. Yes, it's hard to do, but it's the only option we have right now. An ambitious investment plan for the future. Cut down on tax loopholes. You could save 40 billion if the HMRC actually did their job through tax evasion, tax avoidance, and the jiggery pokery they do at the top when they can hire these lawyers that find all the loopholes. We could bring back tens of billions of pounds. They won't do that.
And frankly, it's dangerous. Just look at what happened in Greece, or to her.
Okay, so Greece went to the euro in 2001. They claimed in 2009 that their debt to GDP ratio was 3%. It was actually 12.7, which is insane, which led to their austerity measures, IMF bailing them out with, I think, 230 billion. Not the same. Our economy is much more stronger. We have the pound, which we create money. Also, our economy is more diversified in terms of, London being the central hub of financial markets in the world, along with New York and Tokyo. So this false equivalence between the UK economy and Greece, again, it's a lie. It's another straw man. And also unfunded tax cuts from Liz Truss. And also other market jiggery pokery that had a relationship to mortgages increasing and the stock markets being spooked.
This is the worst one. Watch this.
How good you are on the numbers. How much are we spending every year on debt interest?
So actually, of all people, Richard Tice has been saying the same thing.
Here you got Zack Polanski basically saying he adopts the same economic position as Reform UK. It's not much of a surprise.
No, he isn't. That literally is such a lie, a blatant lie. No, he's saying that Richard Tice is talking about, he's argued that the Bank of England should cease paying interest on commercial banks on the reserves they hold at the Bank of England, reserves built up through the Bank of England's past quantitative easing program. So he claims this would save tens of billions, sometimes quoted as up to 35 billion a year, which he says would be redirected towards tax cuts for the wealthy or public spending, e.g. raising tax-free personal allowance. They want to raise that to 20,000 apparently. That's not what Zack Polanski is claiming. He's talking about the paradigm of neoliberal economics and the fact that, we have to pay, this narrative, there's a moral duty to pay our debts. Whereas actually, debt is a part of the structure. Yes, it's increasing, but the only way we can have economic growth is through investment. So you do what the Tories did, economic stagnation, or you stimulate the economy through investment. Which one is it? And Labour are too scared to actually invest. They're doing a little bit, but they're too afraid to actually have an ambitious plan of investing in Britain.
Like Farage, Polanski likes to pretend that there are easy solutions to all the world.
No, never has he said that. Another straw man. He said it's really complicated, actually, and there's a lot we need to do to reform the Bank of England, to reform speculative banking frames, regulations on banks. We need to reform the tax system, national insurance, council tax, which is really, these are regressive. You literally have people paying a few £100 for a £200 mansion, and they'll be paying more in Blackpool. We need to shake up the whole system. The status quo isn't working. Labour are just buying into the status quo. That's the difference. That's the Polanski difference, if you will.
Problems, and that includes fixing Britain's economy. Unfortunately, he's peddling snake oil.
Which is ironic because people know that Labour can't fix the economy. They're not doing anything radical enough. They're just tinkering around the edges. They're not going to tackle inequality. They're not going to tackle the debt. They're going to continue austerity, which is going to diminish people's mental health, communities, and you're just going to see a steady decline. And we're going to have a big recession or a big economic bubble, maybe AI, whatever, and they won't be able to deal with it because we would have increased the debt. We would have invested and we'll be in a worse situation.
You can't give me a rough figure on how much we're spending on debt.
Well, there's £70 billion that we owe to the Bank of England, but we don't actually.
I like trying to see these two are much closer than you may think. Not really, completely different. Farage, like the Labour, defends the status quo, and Zack Polanski wants to change the economic paradigm. Labour, like Farage, are demonising and scapegoating immigrants and saying, oh, it's divisive for brown people to come into the UK, which is fucking disgusting, by the way. Like, and also, do you think the position on Gaza is very different between Labour and Reform? Probably not. They'd still be sending the components to, is it I don't know the planes, F-150s to bomb Gazans. Like, it's so weak, isn't it? And it has to be based on lies. You can't have an honest discussion about, okay, what's Zack Polanski proposing? How do we do this change? It's difficult. There's many reforms need doing. How do we work together? Why not try and work together on this?
Actually owe.
This video. Wow.
Sorry,
This video really is the problem for Zack Polanski and the Greens.
I mean, he looks a little bit rattled. Pure projection from Labour, because they're the ones that are rattled, because they know that they can't really do much on the economy in the paradigm and the framework they've been given. There's certain parameters that they're imposing on themselves, which they could free themselves up. Fiscal spending, fiscal rules, they always change over the last. So we need to be more radical. We need to challenge the status quo. And these things seem inevitable until you actually have a person who comes across and goes, actually, we can do this. We can change the paradigm. It almost seems impossible until it's done. And you go, oh, wait a minute. We do have political will. We have agency and we can change the system. But it takes political will. And at the moment, there's too much cynicism that, oh, we can't do much. You know, the system is what it is. And, you know, we're not political agents. There's so much apathy and cynicism in politics that people think, oh, no, we can't do this. We just have to increase inequality and, you know, just pay the debt off, which hasn't worked over the last 15 years. There's nothing we can do. Well, I don't think that's true. So tell me your thoughts below. Tell me what you think of this pathetic piece from Emily Thornberry, and I'll see you in the next video.